Yoji Shinkawa was born in Hiroshima, Japan on December 25, 1971, a Christmas present to the art world. When we talk or bring up the Metal Gear series, the first name to come to mind is Hideokojima, which isn't a bad thing. Hideo is responsible for bringing the game to fruition. Where Hideo laid the first seeds of the series, Yoji Shinkawa crafted the flower. Beginning his career as the debugger for the PC 98 version of the game Police Knots in 1994, later brought on as the art director for the ports that were ported to other consoles. After Police Knots, Yoji Shinkawa was brought in as the art director for all of Kojima-led Metal Gear Solid games, and led character designer for the mechs in the series as well. Though his name may not be a household name like Kojima, his art speaks for itself. When you envision Solid Snake, that was made possible by Yoji Shinkawa. Yoji Shinkawa uses traditional and digital media for his art. Pentel brush pens like the one I use. In his style, he rarely uses pencil, opting to instead draw with a brush, felt tip pens like the Copic multiliners. For digital, Yoji Shinkawa uses Adobe Photoshop and Corel Painter. Yoji Shinkawa released multiple art of Metal Gear Solid books where his unique heavy contrast and hatching style can be seen. With Yoji Shinkawa's style, his concept art crafts a story that seldom can be seen in any other media, almost like a living manga. He is heavily inspired by anime and manga artists Yoshikazu Yasuhiko and Yoshitaka Amano. Willie Pagani, Frank Miller, and Aubrey Birdsley are other influences from American comic and art. French artist Moebius was also influential in his work. Being tied to a franchise like Metal Gear Solid, it makes sense to be a fan of heavy metal music, such as Killswitch Engage and Megadeth. This was all sourced through Wikipedia. Aside from the video game art, Yoji Shinkawa worked on films such as Godzilla Final Wars and Pacific Rim, as a monster designer and mech designer and poster designer respectively. Yoji Shinkawa has been influential in many lives of artists including myself. Just like Ayami Kojima, he showed that different doesn't necessarily mean bad. If anything, different means fresh and new. All art is borrowed, and when that time comes to pass the torch to the new generation, it is up to them to either evolve the form or keep it the same. And I can say that Yoji Shinkawa has evolved the form.
So the first title I worked with was Metal Gear Solid. It was the first formal job I had. Before that, I was only a student. I was seeing things as a player. And that first Metal Gear Solid was the first title I worked as a creator rather than as a player. So I remember I was very excited, at the same time a bit nervous. What I did back then is too different of what I do these days. Back then we had very few people, designers. I think we had like 5 or 6 designers overall. So I was trying to put the team together, check out the lighting, the balance in the art. So I kind of did the same thing back then. My first job even in Metal Gear, the first work I had was creating Metal Gear Rex. At that time it didn't have any name. I was just told by Mr. Kojima to design a Metal Gear. So I was working in pencil and paper where I used to work back then. This was my very first job I got assigned. And I had a very hard time putting it together. So I was told, well, then try to create a model rather than putting on pencil and paper. So I went home and I was there creating for a while, trying to put it together. So the first things that other team members saw from me wasn't necessarily my art, my drawn art, but the model I created. And I think they were rather satisfied. I myself was satisfied with what came out of that.
Was it your idea to add more, I think a lot of this came from the name as well, but to add more of the dinosaur elements to Metal Gear Rex?
I think, yeah, that would be me. I mean, before Metal Gear Solid, of course, there was Metal Gear for MSX. Those games had different Metal Gears that Also had like dinosaur-like elements, several organic elements. I took several ideas from there, and well, after going back and forth, shooting several ideas, and going back and forth with Mr. Kojima, talking with him, well, we thought like, well, maybe making it look like a dinosaur. You know, back in those days, Jurassic Park was showing, and we thought, well, maybe making it look like a dinosaur, it will look stronger, and those kind of ideas came together, and I think that's what shaped Rex.
How big was the whole art team back there for Metal Gear Solid 1?
Yeah, we were really, I think 6. If you count also people that were working in motions, then probably around 10.
Do you miss those days of working with such a small team, or do you like managing a larger art team now?
Well, one thing is that back then, what we could do was rather limited. I think with current games, it would be too difficult to create things enough with 6 people. Also, well, right now I'm working with several team members that were the same back then, so I don't think it has changed that much, honestly.
I'm curious, just to get specific, the look of the boss from Metal Gear Solid 3, she had such a great, strong look, and I'm wondering, her in-game model, what was that based on? Where did that look come from?
I guess that would be a French actress called Charlotte Lamp. I usually don't think of actors, actresses in my creative process. I try not to base it on any actual characters, but when I was talking with Hideo, going back and forth on what kind of character the boss was, well, we suddenly had the idea, well, it should be somehow, Charlotte Lamp is a good image of that, so I didn't necessarily base it off on her, but Hideo and me, we both had the idea of, well, she's a good inspiration source. From there I started working, so yeah, I guess I did have her in mind while I was working on the boss.
So when you're just walking around in your daily life, are you taking notes of interesting faces or interesting looking machines or technology to then incorporate in your concept art and illustrations?
Well, not necessarily. I don't necessarily take notes while I'm moving in the city. That's mainly because when I move, I usually use a car or a bicycle, so it's quite difficult to take notes while I'm doing that. But one thing is that a while ago, I used to take the train to come to the office. So on my way here to the office and on my way back, I used to spend all the time in my sketchbook, drawing sketches and whatnot.
Recently, Yoji Shinkawa work can be seen in Kojima Productions' Death Stranding as art director.
It's so hard to form connections when you can't shake hands.
Artist, do you have time to illustrate on your own, or is much of your time now just managing such a large team?
I need to be honest here, management is definitely not one of my strengths. I mean, I can't even manage my own self, so it's very difficult to manage. So honestly, I still these days, I enjoy a lot the time I'm drawing on myself. I still, every time I feel I need to learn more new things, I need to keep improving. One thing that is different though is that a while ago, I used to create everything on myself, clean the character up, brush it up. Compared to right now that we're working as a team, the concept art team, we're working everyone hand in hand together. So I'm not sure if I should call that management, but I do. My perspective has changed from creating everything on myself to everyone creating something together.
I'm curious, what's been your favorite part of working on Metal Gear Solid 5 now? What have you enjoyed the most so far?
Well, I mean, we're still working on it, but for every game, it's kind of similar. My favorite phase is when you are putting all the ideas in, when you're brainstorming. It's kind of like the stage where you're thinking of concepts of the concepts, just drawing sketches, just throwing ideas in. After that, well, there's a phase where you have to put together the game, the characters, the story, and somehow find a balance within that, maybe retake some drawings. It requires a bit more thinking. So my favorite part, I guess, is just prior to that, where you're creating the concepts. The part where you're creating rather the concept of what will be the concepts, where you're throwing in whatever you like. That's a part that I really enjoy every time I'm creating a game.
Do you think the team gets really excited when they get to design a new character?
I hope you enjoyed this video on Yoji Shinkawa. This new format has been a labor of love and appreciation for these fathers and mothers of the video game art community. I want to thank all the sources I use and all of you for your continued support. Leave in the comments below which video game artist you would like to see covered next. As always, don't forget to keep it over 9,000. Sourced videos and sites: PlayStation YouTube channel, Left Alive, Yoji Shinkawa original artwork, Game Informer YouTube channel, Yoji Shinkawa Life with Metal Gear, and source sites like NeoGAF, Pinterest, and Instagram. Again, thank you so much for watching this video. You take care.